All right, the number one need. I asked John Lynch. I know you have a lot of needs, but if you had to list one thing that you really want to make a concerted effort to address, what is it? And he was like, well, we want to make the team better as a whole, but we've always prided ourselves on our defensive front, being able to stop the run and get after quarterbacks. Clearly, we didn't get after the quarterback well enough last year. We want to change that. And to me, that's half of the answer. And it's always been half of the answer. And the Niners always go there. And it's fine. Do they need a better D-line? Absolutely, yes. But to me, the right answer is both trenches, not just one. And I don't understand why the Niners have had this philosophy for 10 years. What do you think?
I think that it has to do with money. Everything with them flows through making sure that the money is on the field. And they led early on in the regime, Grant. They were very bullish on we use our draft picks, our money, and all of our resources on our front seven, right? Somewhere along the line, we got away from that. And if you look at earlier on, we did invest in the offensive line. Remember Weston Richburg? I think we made him like the highest paid center in the NFL at that time. We had went out and got Mike
McGlinchey was a
McGlinchey.
first-round pick. Banks was a second-round pick.
They went out and got Laken Tomlinson, who was a former high-round pick from, I believe, Detroit, and picked him up. So when they had the opportunity to do it and money really wasn't in the way, you see that they wanted to bolster the trenches.
Yeah, in 2019, they had 3 first-round picks and a second-round pick on their offensive line. And Mike Tyson. Yeah.
Right. I think that picking up Trent Williams and acquiring Christian McCaffrey gave a lot of imbalance to the offense. I really believe that and then Debo at the time, where you put so much weight into your skill guys and what they could do that basically blocking or being dominant at the line of scrimmage really wasn't a priority to you because you had guys that were dynamic in space, right?
Yeah.
Football is all about breaking the rules. We had this conversation, right?
Yeah.
And we had a lot
We
of
don't
guys.
have to be tough up front.
We don't have to be tough up front when we have a 225-pound receiver that runs like a running back, right? Yeah. And he can break the rules, right? We have a tight end in George Kittle that is basically a 4-down tight end, which is rare in today's NFL. He can do everything. And at the time, George was a legit threat, a sub 4-5 runner at tight end, right? He could break the rules. Now these guys have kind of come back to earth, and the contracts and the shift of all of the things that we've done to keep these guys happy, keep them on the team, it's not worn off yet. So we have to figure out how to push forward with the money that we have on these guys. Go ahead.
Here's why I think the Niners need to really invest in the offensive line as well as the defensive line, because I feel like their offense has been figured out by the Seahawks. And what the Seahawks are showing the league and the Niners is that we don't respect your offense up front. You're soft. You're soft. So we're going to play nickel all day. We're going to play too high all day. And why is that? Because you're soft. We can push you around. There's nothing you can do that scares us to be like, well, we got to be in base. We got to bring the 8th man in the box. They're just so strong. They're bullying us. We're going to bully you with our nickel defense. And that's what they've been doing. And until the Niners are more like the Seahawks for 10 years, had a rinky-dink soft offensive line. And Russell Wilson complained about it. Geno Smith complained about it. They were always under siege. Finally, Charles Cross, round 1. Gray Zabel, round 1. The right tackle, what's his freaking name? Round 3. Abe Lucas, round 3. The right guard was round 4. Like, they've drafted every single player on their offensive line. The center was an undrafted free agent, but they didn't go out and get someone else's reject. The Trent Williams trade was freaking lucky anyway. You're never going to replicate that. That was Washington fumbling it and Shanahan having a prior relationship with him. You got to draft these guys. You got to draft them high. And if you don't, you're going to keep getting punked by Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy and Jaron Reed and all those dudes.
Well, one thing that I see, Grant, is that it has tilted. Right now, teams with the best trenches don't necessarily have the most dynamic skill guys, right?
Yep. The Seahawks don't necessarily have the most dynamic skills guys.
They don't, right?
No,
it's JSN. It's JSN and who else, right? Honestly.
2 good running backs, a great wide receiver, and a bunch of solid players after that.
Yeah, Rashid Shaheed was good for them. He's a good
AJ
guy
Varner.
Coming in. Yeah, but they don't have much. What they have is what the rest of the league has not done. And I believe that, honestly, it's not just the 49ers. There's a lot of teams where if you look at their money and how they're spent, there's a lot of money poured into their skill guys and not a lot of money going towards their trenches, quite honestly. Maybe your edges. The Niners used to major in not only depth, but prioritizing offensive line and defensive line. And now that we see what actually is the winning football, which is, NFL's a meritocracy. Whoever wins the Super Bowl, that's it. That's how football is played. And how football is played, thank God, is the trenches. They have to honestly, for me, they've got to go back and start doubling down. I think we're thinking about this completely wrong with, Niners just need starters. No. The Niners need to do what the Eagles do. When the Eagles have a good offensive line, what do they go out and do in the draft? They still go draft offensive linemen.
Yep,
they still go get them.
Every year.
Right?
Dude, if the Niners spend their first round pick on a wide receiver, there's a high likelihood he doesn't play much as a rookie and that the Niners keep doing nothing against the Seahawks. If you actually if you hit on a really good offensive lineman, that could change the whole equation against the Seahawks. It could force them to play a base defense. It could compel them to get 8 in the box, and then it could actually open up your passing game. You're not going to beat them over the top with Ricky Pearsall or any wide receiver you draft in round 1 if you can't get them out of that 2-man shell.
Yeah.
That 2-man shell.
Yeah, it's the physical side of football where you got to take the play callers out of the game and let the boys play. That's the biggest thing about the Seahawks that I see from them being physical. All of the guys that they have, the rookies that they have, the offensive line, all of that stands out. But the biggest thing overall for me is they play free. They play physical. They do not have a lot of things bogging them down. They do not come into the game with all of this process of how to exactly get things done. Things get really simple when you could just whoop ass up front, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? Like you really don't have to get scientific with your play sheet when you're getting 3 yards, 5 yards a pop, 4 yards a pop running the ball. It's really not that hard. The Niners we've leaned way too much into the process of how we get things done, how intricate our infrastructure is with making sure that we get the perfect receiver that can fill this role of a guy that's not here anymore, that we think this role is good because this guy had success in it in the past. It's like, no, how about we just go get the best guard? Go get the best center. Go get a tackle.
And what's tough about that is like when you wait till free agency to do that, good. The best offensive linemen don't hit free agency. Trent Williams has never been a free agent. Like he hasn't even been a lame duck. Like he just gets locked up. Joe Thomas never was a free agent. He was just the Browns held on for dear life. I mean, if you really want good offensive linemen, you either have to spend $1 bajillion for guys who aren't that good, or you draft them. If you want good defensive linemen, I mean, Seahawks traded for Leonard Williams. Seahawks signed DeMarcus Lawrence. They signed Uchenna Nwosu. They did draft Byron Murphy, but you can sign good edge rushers for $12, $13 million a year. You can sign excellent. You can trade for really good defensive tackles like Leonard Williams and pay him $20-something million a year. Like it's the tackles and the quarterbacks and the wide receivers that are just so freaking expensive. So, and the offensive line in general. So if you want to address the offensive line, it seems like you have to address it early in the draft, and the Niners just don't want to. They did with those 2 dudes from Notre Dame, and neither one was that good, and they've been, scared off since then. I think they got to re-examine that strategy. The Seahawks did. I think them taking Zabel was important. He might not even be as good as Eman Worry, but it was a big step for that franchise. And the Niners, the last time they had a really dominant offensive line was with Harbaugh. And remember, in 2010, they drafted Anthony Davis with the 10th pick, and they drafted like Mike Upati with the 17th pick. The Niners haven't had a guard like Mike Upati since Mike Upati.
Mike Upati. I was just about to say since Mike Upati.
Damn, he was good.
Phenomenal, bro. Oak made out of wood, bro. Like just day in, day out, rarely hurt. You know what I mean? Like just whooping ass. You can run behind them. Any type of scheme that you want to run, you could do it. Honestly, the Gray Zabel pick is something that you love to see from a standpoint of like, it's almost like it's not, like you said, it's not like a knockdown, drag out pick where you just love how it goes. But what it really does is that it kind of reminds you of like a Landon Dickerson pick for the Eagles, right? Not highly touted, but this guy majors in what he does. Toughness, playing ball, being able to move up and down the offensive line wherever you need him. He's going to play until he's going to be there in the winter. He's going to be there in the summer. He's going to be there in the fall. A guy that you just have to pay and you have to respect. There has to be, all right, it's almost like, you know, on your computer where you have like root files. You can erase everything on your computer when you delete everything, but you cannot touch your root files. That's exactly how the computer runs. You have to have those. There needs to be root file like positions that get paid on this team that we just do it automatically. Offensive linemen need to be a part of the root files of this team. We can't touch that anymore.
And what I love about the Seahawks now is that McDonald, people may not realize that he's a Harbaugh guy. He was with John Harbaugh in Baltimore, but he was with Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. And I know Harbaugh has Mike McDaniel now, which is interesting, but historically, Harbaugh's been kind of the antithesis of a Shanahan offense. He wants to run power. He wants to run between the tackles. He's not a wide zone guy. He wants to bully you with the offensive line. He was the one that had that viral quote a couple of years ago about how the offensive line is the fist of the offense and is the only position group that makes everyone else better. McDonald comes from that tradition, and he looks at the Niners offense and thinks small, soft. Why would I match up? I mean, I would match up against a Harbaugh offense when they got those behemoths on the offensive line. If there was Joe Staley and Mike Upati and Anthony Davis, that'd be a different story. But we're looking at Dominic Pooney and Colton McKivitz and Spencer Burford. Like, I'm not respecting that. And that's going to be the case. Even Kyle himself said before the Super Bowl, like, well, the only thing you can really do against this defense is run the ball if you can. Well, you can't. So is it Christian's fault? Because he's not going anywhere. It seems like it's pretty clearly the offensive line's fault. And if you go into the season without a serious left guard like you did last year, nothing's going to change against the teams that you need to beat.
Right. And I love it. I love this because this takes almost a little bit of process away from Kyle. It makes him do the things that only a head coach is supposed to do. Like, just do the right thing, bro. Like, I get it. He's not going to get any reps. This has got a guy that's going to run routes. Go get a left guard that you have to pay. All right? That's a thorn in your side. Maybe that can help you from not overpaying a receiver that you want to keep. Go get a left guard. And honestly, I wouldn't mind if they kept Trent, going to get his successor in this draft.
Yeah. Absolutely. Bill Kennedy says, how do you get along with the players you criticize? I don't always, but sometimes I do. Usually the ones that are very supremely confident take it as a challenge to change someone's mind. TVYT143 says, is there an argument that Pinheiro is more important than Trent Williams? Yeah, in the sense that I would like to keep Pinheiro, and I'm open to finding a new left tackle. Joseph Ernberg says, as a fan, I actively root against this team. I love this guy. It's hilarious.